Did you hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just identify however you want. I'm going to mute myself and you can take it away from there.
I'm Courtney. I'm an addict. My sobriety date is September 23rd, 2021. So I grew up in Texas. I'm originally from Texas and lived there for the first 22 years. I was raised by my mom, and it was just me and my mom for the first 5 years until she got remarried. And who she married, that's who I claim as my dad. That's who raised me. I have a brother, and then I eventually have had a younger sister named Megan. She's 11 years younger than me. And I had a good childhood. I had a really loving family, loving home. My siblings and I get along. We did a lot of family stuff together. We went on trips, had game night, went to Six Flags. There was a lot of love. My parents were also strict, which at the time I didn't love, but looking back, I'm pretty grateful for it. Like now that I'm a little bit older, I understand. And, things were really good when I was younger. I was big in church. I had a very thick accent when I was growing up, even though it's gone now after being in California for 10 years. But when I was little, like 3, 4, I would walk around like the grocery store or wherever, and I would go up to random people and be like, do you believe in Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior? Because I do, and I'm going to heaven and I want you there with me. And don't try to lie because I'll know. Like I was just like out trying to save everybody. I went to Christian schools, was just like very involved. So, I don't think that anybody could have predicted where my life would go later on. So while all this is going on, I also have my biological dad. He is an addict. He was an alcoholic when I was younger. And then when I was 8, he started smoking crack. So he was in and out of my life, would forget to, show up to things, forget to pick me up, just very, as you can imagine, like someone on a drug like crack cocaine, like he was in and out of prison. There was just a lot going on there. I also have a younger brother through him. So I was, separated from my brother. So there was a lot of pain, and I can definitely see how a lot of my feelings of feelings of abandonment, feeling not good enough, my people pleasing, my need for approval, I can definitely look back and see where a lot of that stemmed from because at a young age, I didn't understand addiction as a disease. I thought that he was choosing to do those things and that if I were just better, he would choose me. So I started having issues around like middle school. I went to a very prestigious private school in Texas, and my parents were not like wealthy by any means, but they worked really hard to put me and my brother and eventually my sister in the best schools. They wanted to give us like every opportunity that we could to be successful in our lives. And so, I went to school with these girls and I cheered competitively with those girls. Like if you've ever seen the Netflix documentary Cheer, the choreographer for that show was my head coach. So it was very, very competitive. And like watching that show back, I can see where my perfectionism came from and stuffing down my feelings, because if you get like injured or you're sick, you have to like, they'll tell you like, go to the bathroom, like clean yourself up and come back out. So it's like, that's where I learned like early on, like, okay, everybody just needs to see that everything's okay. And whatever I'm feeling that's not okay, I need to shove that shit down. And so, so then, the girls I went to school with, their parents all had more money. Their parents were all married, like their original parents. And, all these things that like looking back, I wonder really if they were relevant or if they felt relevant solely to me. But either way, they felt relevant and I felt different, and I felt less than. And so, so then I go to high school and my biological dad goes to prison. And, I feel like I finally have this thought, like, I want to know what's so great about drugs that he chooses them over me. And like, I ignore every strong warning I ever had. My mom had told me, I'd never seen my mom take a drink. And my mom had told me this disease, like alcoholism and addiction, runs in our family. Her dad is an addict. My dad is an addict. So she was like, you you can't drink, like you don't understand like the gravity of the consequences. And I just thought like, oh, she's being such a mom and she's overreacting and nothing bad is going to happen. So I start using cocaine. I use it one night, I go on spring break for a week the next day, and I'm with friends where I can't get to cocaine and it's all I'm thinking about. The obsession hits immediately. Like I had no, like, there was no like escalation period. It was like first use, obsession, problematic. And I started experiencing consequences pretty young. And at the same time, though, I'm holding down a job. I have all honors classes and I make A's, B's. And then like even after high school, I'm still using daily, and I go to college. I buy a house when I'm 19. And the reason I do these things is because like I need it to look okay to you, even though it doesn't look okay to me. And I know it's not okay. As long as it looks okay to you, then I'm okay. That's like one thing I'm really working on since I've gotten sober this time is, if I'm always putting like my self-worth and my value in other people's hands, I'm always setting myself up for the possibility of being destroyed. And it's happened time and time again. And so that's one thing I'm really working on, is just like self-worth and self-love and, not needing the approval of other people. So my addiction progresses as they say it does, and I move on from alcohol and cocaine to heroin and meth. And then within a few years, I'm using needles and I'm shooting heroin and cocaine. I start having some pretty severe consequences. Then I get a blood infection in my hand traveling to my heart, and they almost have to amputate my arm. And then I end up having 2 more surgeries on my arms after that. At one point, it was 6 months of sobriety. I had a seizure, and that was just from like prolonged drug use. My health is definitely being affected. And about halfway through my use, I'm at this treatment center because I'm going in and out of these treatment centers. I'm on like a tour of treatment centers, and I go into one and I meet him, because rehab, that's where they keep the boyfriends. So, I get into this relationship. We were together for 6 years, and we were in and out of treatment centers. Sometimes I could get like 7 months. One time I got 9 months, but he goes out and there I go too. So, one of the things that I had to do this time was separate, and it's hard, like 6-year relationship. And, we had a lot of love between us, but there was just that like, small little problem of not being able to stop doing heroin together. And we were going to die together, and so I had, we had to make that choice for ourselves, that we had to put ourselves first. And it's been the best thing I could have ever done for myself, like as of now, like he has already gone out once, as far as I know, but I'm still sober. And so by the time I make it to this last treatment center, it's my 22nd time in treatment. And I have absolutely no hope or belief that I can stay sober. My parents flew out from Texas a few months after I got raided by the Orange County sheriffs. And now I'm facing like sales and transportation of fentanyl charges, because of course I've moved on to fentanyl by this point. And they fly out here and they intervention me and they say, we want you to go to this rehab. Now, I have completely given up hope that I can get sober. Like my thought process is like, I have tried it and it doesn't work. I've even gotten a year once and I still went back out. So it just doesn't work for me. Like I'm glad it works for other people, but it doesn't for me. And one thing I feel like I have to say is that, I would go into these rehab, sober living, I do the deal, and I would hear in the 12-step programs, I would hear, go to meetings, get a sponsor, work the steps, and you'll stay clean. And that was not my experience. And I'm not saying that it doesn't work. I still work a 12-step program. But what I found out was that I needed more, like the caveat of what I need, just like I needed different drugs to get me where I wanted to be. Like I need different programs. I currently do therapy once a week, like a talk therapist. And then I do another therapy once or twice a week for EMDR trauma therapy. I also work a 12-step program, I have to like do all these things because like one drug doesn't work for all of us. Like just one specific thing doesn't work for all of us. And I know tons of people that solely do a 12-step program and stay sober. That's just not been my experience. And I'm so grateful that at this point in my recovery, I have figured that out, because I was banging my head against the wall repeatedly and then wondering like why this wasn't working. So I went into detox, and I didn't do it because I was like, yay, yeah, I can totally stay sober. I did it because my like sweet, loving parents are sitting there and my dad's crying. And I could not look them in the eye and say, thanks for flying all the way out here, but please take me back to my dingy motel. I just couldn't do it, So I loved them, like, thank God, because I know I didn't love myself. So I go into detox. I did about 20 days in detox, kicking fentanyl and Xanax. I didn't eat for 2 weeks. I like fainted at one point, which I've had a lot of like withdrawal symptoms, but I've never fainted. I did a lot of other things that I'm not going to mention. And then I went to residential for 70 days. And then I went to sober living where I still am. And then I did IOP. So for the first 5 months of my sobriety, I was in groups. And it's because like I knew that I needed that structure. I'm going through a breakup of a 6-year relationship. I don't have a car, I don't have a job. And I just wanted to give everything I had into my recovery, because I felt like if I'm going to really do this, then I'm going to do it. And yeah, I mean, it has definitely been a ride. Getting sober is the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's also like, even though like I've, graduated college, like I've done all these things, but like, to be honest, they didn't really take a lot of effort for me. Like school, that kind of stuff, it comes naturally. Like staying sober goes against everything I feel naturally. And so it's really difficult, but at the same time, like it's mine, like my recovery is mine. And I love that because nobody can take it from me. And so I'm working on, codependency. Like there's just, a gamut of things that come with addiction. It's like never just one thing, I feel like. So it's like battling all of those and also being like easy on myself and patient with myself, that not everything happens in my time. So like in a few days, I have 7 months, and I'm not like making a bunch of money. I don't even have a car at all. I don't have the boyfriend. I don't have like any of that external stuff, but I feel better than I ever have, like I'm not worried about where I'm going to get my next meal or where I'm sleeping tonight or like what crazy dangerous things are going to happen to me on the streets. And that's so nice. I have people that depend on me because they know that they can. I have people that I depend on because I know that I can. I get to follow like in my sponsor's footsteps. Like she has so much wisdom, and she shows me what it truly is to be a woman in recovery that can like walk with your head held high no matter like what I've done in the past or what I've been through, and I can carry myself with grace and dignity. Like that's incredible from what I came from, like sitting in a Motel 6 shooting heroin and cocaine in my neck. Like that's a miracle that I'm at this point, and like one cool thing that I would have to say like that has happened is, so I remember when I went into detox and my mom told me, like your sister's graduating from college in May, and we would really love for you to be there. And I remember thinking, well, shoot, like it's September. So if you want me to be sober and be there in May, like we need to push this back. Like I'm getting sober way too soon for that to be a possibility, because I truly believed that there was no way that I could stay sober for like 7 months. I was like, that's insane. And now here I am, like my flight's booked and I'm going in a few weeks to my sister's college graduation. And that would have never happened had I not gotten clean and sober, and what I have to do today to stay clean and sober, it's been working like so far this 7 months, but it may change in the future. And I just, I hope I can remain like open and willing to see that, like I lost my best friend to this disease at the beginning of 2021. And I had never experienced a loss like that before. And if I experience that type of close loss again in my recovery, like I may need to add something else to help me get through that. It's like realizing that just as my disease and my use changes and it progresses, like my recovery needs to as well. And so not thinking that it's just like this rigid set of guidelines that I follow and just cross my fingers that they work. I'm like open and willing to a lot of different things. I listen to podcasts about like thought work and managing your mind. I just keep my mind open to whatever, help I can get, because now that I have a clear mind and I have the time that I have, like, I never want to go back. I truly don't think I could survive another relapse. You know, I like really don't, like, just even if I didn't overdose, like just mentally where I would be. So I recently got a job for a recovery apparel company. So I'm working for Stay Stopped now, which is great. You know, I've always worked in the car business. I worked for Audi for a very long time and I made a lot of money, but it like wasn't filling my soul at all. And so like this does, you know, I get to hang around other addicts and I get to like meet a bunch of different people, like in all different points of their recovery, and it's just really rad. And I can't imagine like how good my life will be after, you know, a year, 3 years, 5 years. Like if I stay sober, like the possibilities are endless, and I'm just super excited about it. And that's so yeah, you can follow me on Instagram. Luckily, I was not one of those people that updated my Instagram while I was using, because that would be terrible. I did go Facebook Live one time during a drug deal, so then I stayed off the internet for a while. But my Instagram handle now is at the sober Courtney. And then I worked for Stay Stopped Recovery Apparel. So it's at stay.stopped on Instagram. So that's all I got. Thank you.